Doctor is such a damn badass. Across various incarnations, they've survived a hell of a lot of dangerous encounters. But even though their Time Lord biology makes them a tough cookie to defeat, the Doctor isn't invincible. In fact, there are plenty of situations, some theoretical and some actually seen in the show, in which the Doctor could be outright killed, meaning that they're unable to heal their injuries and regenerate into a new body. With that in mind, I'm Will for WhoCulture, and here are 9 ways to kill the Doctor permanently. 9. The poison of the Judas tree. It's pretty hard to stay one step ahead of the Doctor because he's normally several dozen steps ahead of everyone else. That said, the 11th Doctor was completely outplayed by River Song in the series 6 episode Let's Kill Hitler, and if not for her last minute change of heart, she would actually have ended up killing him outright. This early version of River is intent on murdering the Doctor due to her brainwashing, which she tries and fails to do using weapons like guns and knives. Soon after though, she succeeds in delivering a fatal blow by giving the Doctor a cheeky kiss on the lips, infecting him with her poisonous lipstick. It's later revealed that the Doctor has been contaminated with the poison of the Judas tree, which, as the TARDIS interface informs him, has disabled his ability to regenerate. The Doctor is only saved when River decides to use up her entire stock of regeneration energy to heal him, but if that hadn't happened, well, then he was just straight up a goner. 8. The planet of the executioners. The Doctor Who universe is stuffed to the gills with weird aliens and mysterious organizations, so it shouldn't come as too much of a surprise to learn that there's a planet out there whose people specialize in just one thing: killing. In Series 10's Extremis, we learn that the people of this world are extremely good at killing, and in fact, one of them states that they know how to execute every living thing in the galaxy, including Time Lords. This is evidenced by the fact that Missy is about to be sentenced to death, and we are even told about how the executioners intend to execute her. They'll use advanced technologies to stop both hearts, all 3 brainstems, and deliver a cellular shockwave that permanently disables regenerations. And while Missy is eventually spared, it definitely seems like these executioners knew what they were doing. Destroying the hearts and brainstems of a Time Lord was even mentioned by Missy in The Magician's Apprentice.
3 for each heart and 2 for my brainstem, and you'll have to switch me off fast before I can regenerate.
Even earlier than this, River Song refuses to let the Doctor save the day in the Forest of the Dead, because it would burn out both his hearts with no regeneration. 7. The laser screwdriver. The Master is essentially a sinister mirror of the Doctor, so it's quite fitting that the character's tool of choice reflects this. Instead of carrying a sonic screwdriver, the Master carries a laser screwdriver, a weapon that is used for killing. The Master started wielding this device in the modern era of the show, with the John Sim incarnation using it on several occasions throughout his tenure, and in his most recent appearance, Series 10 finale The Doctor Falls, it's shown that the laser screwdriver can kill Time Lords and inhibit their regenerative abilities. We see this when the Master uses it to kill Missy. He zaps her in the back before informing her that she shouldn't bother trying to regenerate, because the full blast of the screwdriver was enough to kill her outright. With this in mind then, we can also assume that the screwdriver would have the same deadly effect on the Doctor. Sure, Missy did eventually regenerate into a fresh body and went on to battle the 13th Doctor, but as is customary with the Master, Missy's seemingly miraculous survival was never explained in the show. 6. The Tissue Compression Eliminator. Another trademark weapon of the Master, the Tissue Compression Eliminator, or TCE for short, was a lot more common during the classic series, and to quote from the 4th Doctor in The Deadly Assassin, it results in a nasty sort of death for the victim. He says this upon discovering the body of a Time Lord camera technician who has been killed by the TCE. The TCE shrinks its victims down to the size of a really small doll, while also ceasing their life functions. For Time Lords, this means that they're unable to regenerate, as evidenced by the fact that the camera technician just dies. As a result, it's safe to assume that the TCE would also kill the Doctor outright as well. The weapon recently made a comeback in Series 12, so we might even get to see it used in the near future. 5. A MidRegeneration Gunshot. When the Doctor regenerates, their body is lingering somewhere between life and death. Whatever injury caused them to regenerate is pushing them towards the dark, but that powerful golden energy is attempting to bring them back towards the light. So what happens if you interrupt that process and push it more towards the dark? Well, look no further than the Series 6 opener, in which the 11th Doctor, midway through regenerating, is shot with a laser blast. He's unable to complete his regeneration and the gunshot halts it abruptly, quickly, which causes him to fully die. Granted, this version of the Doctor is actually a robot disguised as the Doctor, but River's line, his body was already dead, he didn't make it to the next one, indicates that the outcome would have been the same even if the Doctor was real. Presumably, any fatal injury that's sustained in the middle of a regeneration will produce the same result, which is probably one of the reasons why the Doctor normally regenerates from the safety of the TARDIS. 4. The Chen 7 disease. Part of the fun in travelling with the Doctor is not knowing what to expect. The Doctor doesn't really conduct background checks on planets before excitedly piloting the TARDIS towards them, and while this spontaneity must be thrilling, it also has the potential to completely and utterly be disastrous for everyone involved. Case in point, The Girl Who Waited. Here, the Doctor takes Amy and Rory to the beautiful planet of Apalachia, but because he doesn't scope it out beforehand, he doesn't know that the whole place is under lockdown due to an outbreak of Chen 7, also colourfully known as the OneDay Plague. It's called this because it kills its victims within a single day, and that includes Time Lords. The Doctor mentions that Chen 7 won't even allow him to regenerate, forcing him to stay inside the TARDIS for the remainder of the episode. Fortunately, he doesn't get infected, but here's a thought, maybe do a little bit of local research, just a tiny bit, to make sure everyone doesn't straight up die. 3. Running out of regenerations. Something that's been mentioned many times throughout the show's history is that Time Lords can only regenerate a finite number of times, usually a dozen. So if you wanted to, you could murder one of them repeatedly, burning through every single one of their regenerations until no more remain, forcing them to die for good. Rassilon threatens the Doctor with a death like this in Hellbent, saying that he's got all night to slaughter his way through each of the Doctor's remaining bodies. Even before this, the 11th Doctor actually did run out of regenerations and had resigned himself to death, only to be granted a fresh cycle by the Time Lords. Now, the timeless children's alteration of Time Lord history did complicate this topic a bit, as it's now unclear if the Doctor can regenerate infinitely, or if they still have that aforementioned limit. But for the sake of this entry, let's just assume that it's still possible for the Doctor to run dry in the regenerations department. 2. The Chameleon Arch. The Chameleon Arch was first introduced in Series 3's Human Nature, and as the 10th Doctor explains, its purpose is to change every single cell in his body, turning him into a different species. In this case, he turns himself into a human, meaning that every single advantage of being a Time Lord is completely stripped away. As such, it would be pretty easy to permanently kill the Doctor while he's in this form. It's not clear how widespread the Chameleon Arch technology is, but if a villain were to break into the TARDIS somehow, which honestly seems pretty easy to do as of the end of Series 12, maybe they could turn the Doctor into a human and murder them on the spot. Or a slug, and just stamp on it. Anything, really. It's a bit of a convoluted plan, sure, but it's probably quicker than murdering your way through countless regenerations. 1. Drowning. Just like us weak and frail little humans, there are certain environments that Time Lords simply cannot survive in. While the Doctor can survive in space, as seen in The Doctor, the Widow and the Wardrobe, as well as the blistering heat of the desert, as seen in Planet of the Dead, one place that will straight up kill them is if they're completely submerged in water. There's a clear example of this in Series 4, with the entire premise of the Turn Left episode revolving around an alternate timeline wherein the 10th Doctor is drowned by the water from the River Thames. We see his corpse strapped to a hospital bed, while a nearby soldier solemnly declares the Doctor is dead. And this actually makes sense. Maybe he could have tried to regenerate, but then he would still be drowning during his regeneration. Decades prior to Turn Left, the 4th Doctor was nearly drowned in classic serial The Deadly Assassin, and on the whole, it seems like Time Lords and large bodies of water should not mix. Let's stay away from that TARDIS swimming pool. And there you have it, folks, 9 ways to kill the Doctor permanently. Feel free to drop this video a like if you enjoyed it, and drop me a follow on Twitter at YouSlyDogU. I'm Will for WhoCulture, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.